Alright everyone, it's Friday the 15th of August today. Hope you are all well. Apologies from me for no video yesterday. I'd actually started the process of producing a video, researching, etc. and then kind of came across the fact that there was nothing happening. So I just thought I'd leave it, have a day off to rest and come back rejuvenated ahead of tonight's game against Falkirk. So there is, we're making up for the lack of video yesterday today because there's a lot to discuss, and that's before we even get on to tonight's game. So yeah, let's do it. So we'll kick off with Brendan Rodgers' press conference yesterday. A lot came out of that. That started with him being asked about the Kairat game, and just like he'd said to in-house media, Celtic TV, a day prior, he kind of admitted, I think, that he would have rathered a 2-hour trip to Bratislava rather than an 8-hour trip to Almaty, which is totally fair enough. By the way, just a wee update on the kickoff situation for the tie against Kairat. The second leg will be a 5:45 p.m. kickoff Celtic Park time on Tuesday the 26th of August. So that's a 9:45 p.m. kickoff local time in Almaty, meaning that the match will be over not far off midnight and could even go after midnight if it goes to extra time and penalty. So a late one in Almaty, a nice tea time kickoff for those of you watching in Scotland and neighbouring countries, and for those of us in Melbourne, a lovely 2:45 a.m. start. That's great, love that. We also had viewer Peter Campbell getting in touch yesterday, raising a point I think a lot of you are potentially wondering. He asks, why is the Central Asian Republic of Kazakhstan in UEFA at all? UEFA is the European governing body, isn't it? Well, when Kazakhstan became an independent country back in 1991, the football team initially played in the Asian Football Confederation, all the way until 2002 when they decided to move to UEFA. Kazakhstan is a transcontinental country. I'm sure you know that, meaning that it covers more than one continent. So a small slither of the west of Kazakhstan is considered Europe, which makes them eligible to be part of UEFA. Everything else about Kazakhstan is very much like a Central Asian nation. But yeah, that's the reason that UEFA accepted them and the reason why we're travelling so far for a European match. Anyway, back to Brendan Rodgers. Yesterday, he spoke a bit about the logistics of travelling to Kazakhstan. Obviously, nothing new. I mean, Celtic have done it 3 times. There'll be people at the club like John Kennedy, I guess, who have been 3 times already. Brendan Rodgers, this is his 3rd trip to Kazakhstan as Celtic manager. There was 2 in his first spell at the club. And you've even had Scotland played in Kazakhstan. Did great under Alex McLeish. I think a 3-0 defeat a number of years ago. So a lot of our players like Callum McGregor and James Forrest. I mean, James Forrest, this will be his 5th visit to Kazakhstan, I think. So there's experience there in terms of doing that. But yeah, Brendan Rodgers mentioned the name, another Brendan O'Neill, who's the first team operations manager at Celtic, and someone, I don't know, I'd certainly seen on TV with the players from time to time and always kind of wondered who he was. So it's nice to put a face to the name or a name to the face. So he's in charge of all of the logistics, and I was looking back at some reports of the last time we visited Kazakhstan. We played Astana in 2017, and at the time Brendan Rodgers was very open about the team sticking to British time when they went over to Kazakhstan, so not adjusting to the Kazakh time. And basically meant that the team were eating meals at really ridiculous times. They even got the hotel we were staying in to change all of the clocks to British time, which is an interesting approach, but, you know, it kind of worked in the end. So, yeah, apparently that's better for your body clock to stay in British time. So I assume that Celtic will do the same when we go out to Kazakhstan. But a lot of people talking about it as if it's like the first leg. Like, let's just deal with Celtic Park first, and if things go really well at Celtic Park, the whole trip to Kazakhstan could become a little bit of a formality, potentially. But then again, this is Celtic. Just a final note on this tie. The deadline for Celtic to submit their 25-man squad for the Kairat tie has now passed. It was last night. I did have a look on the UEFA website earlier, and they hadn't they didn't have the squad up yet. I'll just have a quick refreshed look now. I think it usually takes a couple of days for things to go up. Yep, still nothing on the UEFA website. Don't think it's a huge deal. I think we can probably all have a good guess at who will be in the squad. As you will know, we do still have a window to bring in up to 2 new players as well, and that's until Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Aidan O'Brien the other day wondering for the adding 2 players that we have to remove 2 as well to do this. Yes, the squad can only be 25 players, so assuming that we've had 25 players in the squad that we submitted last night, then for obviously 1 or 2 new players to come in, then 1 or 2 will have to leave, so 1 in, 1 out. So we'll see how that goes. Brendan Rodgers was asked yesterday about this final signing deadline and potentially having 1 or more players brought in for that. And yet, hopefully was the word that he used, which is a little bit different from like recent press conferences when he's kind of been distancing himself from the transfer stuff and saying stuff like, I don't know, to basically every question. So I don't know, people obviously reading into him saying hopefully and suggesting that maybe a deal or 2 is close. I think we're in danger of like reading into absolutely everything the manager says, and I guess as fans, and I'm especially bad for it, we kind of do that. But yeah, hopefully could just be its literal meaning that he's hoping that it will be the case. Why wouldn't he be hoping that? So yeah, we'll wait and see. Certainly nothing really to report in terms of transfers. Doesn't seem like anything is particularly imminent, but we have had the odd signing in recent times that we haven't really heard anything about, and then very quickly things have moved into gear. Jemai Simpson-Pusey, I guess, would be a good recent example of that. No real chat about him, and then very quickly, Celtic are interested, Celtic approach, and then within probably a few days, maybe a week, he's joining the club. But yeah, we'll wait and see if we can get a player in for that Kairat tie. I'm still personally not massively hopeful for that, but I don't know, maybe Brendan Rodgers knows something's going on in the background. Just in terms of other stuff, some stuff on Daizen Maeda. There has been a bit of growing chat in recent days that Daizen may be leaving the club. I know like Brentford have continually been mentioned, and maybe some other clubs. I've actually had 2 separate Celtic AM contributors come to me individually in the last 72 hours or so to say they're hearing things about Daizen potentially leaving. So they're getting a little bit worried, but Brendan's certainly not subscribing to that yet. He says he's fairly confident of Daizen sticking around, or certainly as confident as you can be. He was asked about contract negotiations as well before that. He says that's all going on in the background, but there's not really an update on that. And he was also asked a third question about Daizen and whether Daizen could potentially play again as a central forward this season. And Brendan Rodgers didn't shut that down. To be fair, I think he's been pretty consistent in saying that Daizen can play there and may play there again in the future. But I think it's fairly obvious that he, in an ideal world, wants Daizen playing on the left. And yeah, as I said last year when Daizen was playing so well through the middle, I'm not massively fussed on it either way. I guess like if it would probably come down to personnel. Like at the moment, I've heard some people say because like Adam Ida's struggling, do you play Daizen through the middle? But then the question would be, who do you go with on the left? I think if we sign either, a first choice left winger or probably more likely a first choice striker, then you kind of make it work there. But yeah, if Jota was fit, for example, I think there's a fair chance we'd maybe see a front 3 of, well, James Forrest or Yang, Jota and Daizen. But yeah, I think he's more of a left winger, Daizen. Brendan's longest answer was actually on him not wearing a tie at Pittodrie on Sunday. He was very hot and says that Pittodrie is one of 2 grounds, I think, along with Preston North End's Deepdale, as being grounds that he felt particularly hot in his career. Yeah, Almaty could be hot in a couple of weeks, Brendan, so maybe don't pack the tie. Yeah, I thought just general point, Brendan Rodgers, I thought he was in really good form. He was joking about various things, obviously the tie stuff. I thought it was a bit kind of more of an enjoyable press conference to watch rather than the last few. I found them really just draining in terms of the constant questions about transfers. He was asked a bit about transfers here, but it was nowhere near as much of a, talking point as in recent ones, which I think is good. And yeah, Brendan Rodgers is in really good form, so hopefully we can kick on now and feel even better. Just before we come to tonight's game, just want to talk a little bit about the European action that happened last night, and I do mean briefly. I caught Hibs very nearly Hibs in it in the Conference League against Partizan last night, and I caught it thanks to NordVPN. I just switched by virtual locations and boom, UK coverage unlocked. I'll also be using NordVPN to potentially catch a bit of Kairat tomorrow night. Yes, it's a very fun life that I have, everyone. But yeah, just a brief recap of the Scottish sides and where we're at in Europe. So we obviously have Kairat in the Champions League playoff. If we win that tie, we're into the Champions League phase. If we lose it, we're into the Europa League phase. It's the same situation for Rangers. They have Club Brugge. Aberdeen are in the Europa League playoff round where they'll face Steaua Bucharest. If they win that, they're into the Europa League. Lose it, they'll fall into the Conference League. Hibs' reward for beating Partizan is a Conference League playoff against Legia Warsaw. If they win that, they'll get 6 guaranteed games in the Conference League. And the first Scottish side to be eliminated from European competition this season was Dundee United. They lost on penalties agonisingly last night to Rapid Vienna. So 3 Scottish teams guaranteed European League phase football this season and the opportunity for a 4th if Hibs can manage it. Stay safe online, stream content from anywhere and never miss a match with NordVPN. You can grab a huge discount and get plenty of extra months free by using the code nordvpn.com/CelticAM. That's nordvpn.com/CelticAM. Links also in the description. Elsewhere, we also had some brilliant banter from Livingston Football Club online yesterday, sharing details of tickets going on sale for next weekend's match at Celtic Park and posting an image of the infamous Celtic Park pole. Not Artur Boruc. Also noticed on a kind of relatively similar stadium structural note, SLO John Paul Taylor confirming that the banners at Celtic Park are due to be removed and replaced with new ones. I think that's been an issue since the storm that Glasgow had earlier this year. I saw a number of fans, including Stevie, complaining about how Celtic Park looked for the St Mirren game, so should be some progress there as well. Right, let's move on and talk about tonight's game against Falkirk. It's the Premier Sports Cup, the League Cup, last 16, and a rare Friday night game at Celtic Park. I believe the last proper Friday night game at Celtic Park, not including like festive matches when the days are all over the place, was a 5-0 win over Dundee in 2015. It was a league game. Whatever happened to Friday night football in the league? By the way, I always quite enjoyed that. It was like a spell for a number of years and it just completely went. But yeah, Near Beaton scored an absolute cracker that day. Dundee keeper that day was Scott Bain, and he'll be in goals for Falkirk this evening. He's actually one of a few familiar faces in the Falkirk side, and this is the kind of predicted team potentially for Falkirk this evening. So yeah, Scott Bain is their goalkeeper. They've also got Calvin Miller, who made a brief Celtic breakthrough under Brendan Rodgers during Brendan Rodgers' first spell at the club. They also have former Rangers man Scott Arfield and striker Brian Graham, who I swear was managing Partick Thistle about 2 months ago. So I don't know how he's managed to become a player again and kind of go up the levels. But anyway, seems like a great guy, so good on him. So yeah, I think it'll be a challenge for us tonight against Falkirk. Brendan Rodgers was asked about the kind of team he'll field tonight with, the first leg of the Kairat tie in mind. And he said it'll be a strong team, but he also mentioned the fact that I think gave a bit of kind of insight into potentially changing things a bit for the Livingston League game, which would make sense ahead of our long trip to Kazakhstan. And not wanting that Livingston game to be like the first game for a number of players. So I think we will see a good few changes tonight, but should still be a fairly strong team. In terms of like the injury report, I think it's just Jota that we're missing, basically. I think everyone else should be around. People will probably be hoping to see Hayato Inamura make his first competitive appearance for Celtic. Jamai Simpson-Pusey, who people seem to have forgotten about a little bit. Hoping to potentially see him. Maybe a first competitive start for Daizen Maeda as well. My hunch is that we might be disappointed with those three in terms of, I don't think any of them will start the game, but I think there's a chance we could see all of them off the bench at some stage. My predicted 11, and I should just clarify, I think this is a team we will see start, not the team that I would go for if I was Celtic manager. What a scary thought. So yeah, Sinizalo in goal. I think we've spoken about this a fair bit, but the cups should be Sinizalo's this season, and I'm talking all the way to Hampden. I think he's earned that, so hopefully he's between the sticks. Back four is an interesting one. Yeah, Brendan Rodgers spoke a bit about Alistair. Sorry, he didn't actually name these guys, but he spoke about players needing to get up to speed, and he's fairly obvious he's talking about Alistair Johnson and Cameron Carter-Vickers. So based on that, I think both of them will start the game. I don't know, does Kieran Tierney start tonight? I feel with his managing his game time, probably would be a good one for him not to start. But I don't think he'll start Inamura. So I'm going with what we've kind of finished a lot of games with recently in Liam Scales playing at left back, Austin Trusty alongside Carter-Vickers. So a back four of Johnson, Carter-Vickers, Trusty, Scales. Midfield, yeah, Cal McGregor will start because he always starts. And yeah, he could change the two players in front of him. I think that would be pretty likely. Luke McCown, who did media yesterday, nothing major to report there, but I think he could start. Arnie Engels potentially as well. Yang on the right, I could see. Maeda on the left, because he's kind of our only option on the left at the moment. And it's just a hunch that Johnny Kenny will start tonight. Again, it could be Adam Ida, could be Daizen Maeda. Again, just a hunch. This team isn't going to be spot on, but I think it's the kind of general feeling of what Brendan Rodgers will go for tonight. I think we'll see some changes, but also, obviously it's a cup tie and we don't want to risk anything. And Falkirk gave us a real tough game last year and a bit of a scare. Did they lead us twice, I think, before we brought, I think, Ida and Nicholas Kuhn particularly on and they kind of won the game for us. So yeah, I think interesting team tonight. We'll get to see a few players. I'd like to see the odd young player. Sean McArdle I'd really like to see. Who else? I mean, Callum Osmond potentially. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting, but clearly Jamai Simpson-Pusey I'd like to see off the bench. I'd really like to see Daizen Maeda get some minutes and potentially Hayato Inamura as well, and maybe Benji Negrin, a bit more of him off the bench as well as he gets fully up to speed. Yeah, we'll look at the Celtic Park crowd in a second. Just officials first. A reminder, I've got a new referee tonight, Lloyd Wilson, assisted by Chris Ray and Graham McNeely. John Beaton is on VAR, and assistant VAR is David Room. Let's just take a wee look then at the ticket situation for tonight's game. Obviously, with it being a cup game, it's not on the season ticket. Nothing really on the season ticket anymore apart from league games. So yeah, it's clearly not going to be a sellout tonight. When you look at the initial stadium plan and see all those blue areas, which by the way should be green given it's the Celtic website, but you think there'd be a lot of seats. It's actually, when you go into them, yeah, there's the odd seat here and there. But not too many in the bottom tier. Yeah, just kind of single seats left. Obviously, as you go into the upper tiers, there's a good few more available. So I think it looks like a decent enough crowd this evening, and I don't know, maybe 43,817. Something like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good atmosphere. It's always, going to be a test in the cup games when Falkirk, who, as I say, this time last year gave us a really good game. They're going to come, not a great deal to lose. They've got some players that can hurt us. They've also got Scott Bain in net, so, get a few shots. So that's harsh. Scott Bain was good enough for us. But yeah, game tonight is a 7:45pm kickoff. It's live on Premier Sports. I think their coverage maybe starts half an hour or so before the game. And yeah, in terms of the channel, we'll have a reaction up for you first thing tomorrow morning, looking back in the game. So enjoy it. Hopefully we can get safely through to the quarterfinals, and then we can really start to focus on Kairat.